Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm very honored to speak to Forbes Riley today, an actress, television host, pitch queen, and a mom of two, and so much more. And we will go into what that exactly is today. The very first question, Forbes, that I would love to ask you is, what is the proudest moment in your whole life?
The proudest moment in my whole life, I'm lying on a table with my legs spread wide apart, and I've just pushed out a little boy, and I'm watching, and out comes a little girl. They're 10 minutes apart. They were healthy. They had all their fingers and toes, and I was at 42, a mom.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was an amazing moment of, you think about it for so long. And it took 12 hours of craziness, of pushing and whatever. And out comes my son. And I remember looking at him on the table, and my ex-husband is videotaping over my shoulder. And out pops this little girl. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look what we did. and just to take that one step further, it was about Christmas time. And it was very emotional. I'd lost both my parents, and my kids were due around my dad's birthday. They were due technically on the 7th. They ended up being born on the 4th. And as we drove these two little infants home in the back of the car, he played a song from Forrest Gump. And every time I hear that beautiful music, I'm transported back to that moment of driving these babies home. And we put them down at the front door as we opened the door. And I thought, our lives are never going to be the same. 20 years later, I'm enjoying that moment every day of my life.
I'm really sure you are. Like, kids turn your whole life completely around, and you change. Not only the world that you see changes, but you change just as much.
And it's been fun because I'm a natural born teacher, and I've never really exercised that before. And I taught these children all these lessons and all the things that they taught me. And today I'm in business with my daughter. She runs my company. My son is in college, and knock on wood, it's been a lovely adventure. And I remember people saying silly things along the way. I'm a bit of a disruptor, and you're going to hear that in this conversation. But they said things like, oh, when your son is 10 years old, you'll have to park down the street. He won't want you to hug him in front of his friends. Let me tell you something. This little boy who's now 6'4" gives me the best hugs ever, because I decided that what that person told me was their limiting belief and not mine. And a lot of what I've discovered, especially being a little older mom, was the lessons that I taught them, I now teach other people because they're lifelong lessons. So interesting, right?
And I hear you talk a lot about the passion that you have helping people. I would really love to know, where does this come from, and where is this passion coming from? Why is it so important for you to help people?
Because nobody helped me. Because in a time, for two reasons. One, I didn't really know how to ask effectively for help. I was put down, I was bullied, I've been shamed, I've had all kinds of issues throughout my life. And I was quite a loner. Growing up, I show pictures of this, but I was a very ugly little girl. I had braces on my teeth for 8 years when I was because I had a very odd palate. For 2 years of my life, I had a thing in my mouth, I had to talk like this. So nobody would listen to me. I had big old frizzy hair, I was overweight, my mom was always very large, and it was a very lonely childhood. Which, ironically, if you listen to me speak, was just exactly what I needed, because life happens for you, not to you. I grew up watching a lot of television. I wanted to be James Bond. My friends were imaginary. Sometimes they still are. I have conversations in my head. I have no aunts and uncles, or I'm very, no parents. And so I've been a problem solver on my own. I've talked to myself a lot. When I was 20 years old, I decided to go to see Europe. I drew a picture of Europe, started from England down through France and Spain up to the other side, and I went on my own. Why wouldn't I? Can't even imagine taking someone. I'd never learned how to do that very well. And consequently, I had to figure out a lot of things the hard way. And as I've gotten a little bit older, it really dawned on me that congratulations for you, but are there lessons of your life that could make someone else's life easier? And it has been a journey, and I didn't want to do this till I had children. Before kids, I was my own person. I'm my own thing. And all of a sudden, I realized how gratifying it is when you share a life lesson or you push people. And then I also discovered seminars. I went through some very earth-shattering trainings, personal development, healing mom and dad issues, which we all have on some level, understanding who you are, how powerful you are, understanding men versus women. And I love this seminar world of wow. And I watched people transform before my very eyes and thought, that's like the best thing you could do for somebody. And that's what I've been doing my entire life. I started, by the way, in my living room. I invited about 8 people to my house. They all paid something. And I taught this thing that I knew and put them through these exercises and whoa. And I've been doing that for 30 years.
And you just mentioned having your kids is like the most revolutionary time of your life. And I heard that you even wrote a book called Being a Mom that never got published. And I want to know, what was the most valuable lesson from interviewing all these famous moms?
Wow, you're good. That's a hard one to find because it has not yet been published. And there's a great story about this. So I did want to find mentors and teachers along the way. And so when my babies were born, I had already been raising, kind of in a big sister, big brother environment, a little kid from South Central, a Black kid, a little darker than my microphone, which was very eye-opening. He became my husband's little brother when we started dating, and he was my best man at my wedding. And we did a lot to raise Dexter. If you're one culture, whatever the culture is, and you're exposed to a different culture, you learn a lot. I learned tremendous things from being Dexter's second mom. And after my kids were born, 6 months after that, Dexter was walking from a haircut to church and he was murdered. A kid who didn't have a mentor or a family, really, walked up behind my boy and shot him 10 times in the back, left him for dead on the street to get into a gang. He did it to get into a gang. I don't think he was a bad kid. I think he was a lost kid. And it's a very sad story. And so my husband, who was very, very, very close to Dexter, they were blood, sat on the couch for 2 years, didn't function. And at that time, I'd read a story about Anderson Cooper, the CNN reporter. He's the son of Gloria Vanderbilt. She's one of the richest families in all of the world. Her younger son jumped out of a window in front of her and killed himself in New York City. And I read that story, and I was working hard and getting more famous. And I thought, how do you raise a kid if you're a famous mom? If people are always stopping you on the street. And I said, and I was no book. And ironically, I was doing an infomercial with Bruce Jenner. And I knew him and Chris from the infomercial world. And Chris had raised 10, she has 6 kids, 10 total with her stepkids. And I said, I want a book on how to do this. Let me go talk to women who are famous, whose kids are a little older. What did they do? And Kris Jenner was so generous. She met me in a restaurant and we recorded it on a tape recorder because there was no cell phones at the time. And I asked her the same 12 questions I was going to ask everybody. And it was brilliant because she was nothing like my mom. She was highly organized. She was the first person I ever heard who got up at 5 a.m. and she said, I hit that treadmill and I've got my schedule. I'm doing this and doing that. I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And obviously we know what happened with the Jenner family. The Kardashians became who they are, primarily because of how she raised them. And then I interviewed Florence Henderson from the Brady Bunch and Shirley Jones. And unfortunately, I learned not only did I learn things, but I got to hang out with famous people and just ask great questions. But I listened to somebody. My manager was a young, hip guy. There is a fundamental difference between men and women. That's all I'm going to say, not better or worse. And my hip manager, who I wanted to respect, said, oh, no, that's not going to be your first book, Being Mom. Your first book should be Been There, Sold That, The Secrets of the $2 billion Host. And I said, okay. And I put it in a drawer because back then my self-esteem was only so confident. And I was an actress and I worked for your approval. If you rejected me, I would take it very personally. I've come to learn, obviously, later in life that that's not what was going on, but how do you know that? And so I put it in the drawer. And the truth is I have not released the book. I will at some point. I am now getting much, much better. I've published lots of books since then. I love that you found that. I think when I do, the timing, there's a thing about life for everybody listening here. There's your time and there's God's time. Now, whether you believe in God or not, it's irrelevant. But there's something that makes the leaves come back. Every spring, they just pop back like magic. And so you might want something And I wanted it back then, but it wasn't obviously the right time. And I do believe that when I publish it with all that I know now, my kids are now older. I now qualify to be an expert as well. Not the end-all expert, but if you've got healthy, productive children and you raise them, what did you do? What did you do right? What did you do wrong? And what would you do differently? And I'm going to tell you, in the case of my babies, I wouldn't do anything differently because they wouldn't be who they are right now. All the good and the bad. And for those of you listening, I'm an actress. I'm a dancer. I put my kids in ballet class when they were little, and they were probably the most uncoordinated kids I've ever seen. I'm standing behind this mirror and I'm watching them. And my little baby girl's a little overweight and she didn't look like the other girls. Now she's perfectly gorgeous, but I'm going to be really honest. And I'm like, oh no, they're terrible. And I was shattered. And maybe it's because you don't get to tell what your children can become. You can want for them. But I think about all those moms who pushed their kids to be dancers in beauty pageants when they were even too little to understand why. Or you look at all the dads. My ex is a Notre Dame full scholarship graduate football. He would have loved, oh my gosh, I'm getting chills. He wanted kids who were athletic and he thought about it. And Riker played lots of different sports, but he didn't really like them. And do you not have sound?
There was a rake.
It was a crazy little glitch. That's okay.
Yeah. Just restart the sentence.
So what's cool about him and I is that we had a little bit of success on our own and didn't need to live through our children. That's probably the biggest advice I would give parents, is to see who they really are, what they want, and honor that. They're not you. They're not even an extension of you. You can give them. And what happened with McKenna is I just liked her so much and I needed a friend. And from the time that she was 8, she would come with me to the home shopping. She traveled through Europe with me to go to all these work things. She always saw her mommy on stage working and networking. And she fell in love with that. And that's why she does this. My son, he's off in college. He has a different, but neither one of them are there because we made them do that. In fact, my son was just home from college. And I don't want to get really crazy, but there was a little boy who grew up across the street from me. His parents are both actors, him and his brother. He taught my daughter to ride a bicycle. He was so beautiful, so sweet. He recently, 24 years old, killed himself.
Oh, wow.
And I grabbed my son and I said, look, I don't really care what you do. Don't do that. I don't care whatever you want. In fact, I said to him, I'm going to give you permission. If you screw up so bad and you don't know where to turn, come to me. I will not judge you. I will love you because I want you to always I want you to be able to come home to me. And it's interesting because when I hugged him, I hadn't seen him in a couple of months. I instantly flashed to my 2 friends who lost their son. And I said, I know that more than anything right now, they wish that they could do that with their son. And I will do anything to keep you happy. And I'm very emotional, sorry, but you got to let kids fly. They're not you. They're different. And they may be different in crazy ways. They may want to transition their sex. They may want to, it doesn't matter what they want. Love them. And that's my biggest advice. Wow.
I'm totally with you on this one, because the moment you let them actually fly and you communicate to them that you are their safe haven or lighthouse, they will always know where to go back to. If you cover that space, that safe space, I truly believe in that. There is absolutely no need in pushing them, like you said, in spaces where they don't want to be, where they will never flourish. But I myself found it always the most beautiful thing to discover the true gift of someone, the true passion of someone. And you can see that as little as 1 year old, right? When a kid is really passionate about something, you will see it and you will feel it. And this is what I've done with my son, right? I've discovered that he was very artistic ever since he could stand on his feet. And he was a very early one with running and all that stuff. So he developed into an artist. He's 12 now. And that was only possible for him to excel even over the levels of his peers, because I gave him the tools. I gave him the number one tool that everybody needs to actually soar, which is freedom. Freedom and time. Because if you don't give these two things, you will make them prisoners of their own mind. And the type of genius that they are, they could never live it out. And of course, I do the same with my daughter, who is a bit younger. But this is so very exciting, the most exciting thing I feel. And I feel like we both have like the same values when it comes to that. You are a incredible businesswoman, like from what I have seen about you, but you still are so much more, so deeply into your motherhood that I can only praise you for that even more. Like we as women, like that's what I feel, we can be as successful as we can be billionaires and trillionaires and whatever, but in the end, as moms, this is the most important job that we have, because nobody will do that type of job. Like that type of work that we do will nobody else do, right? And I praise you for that in all flying colors. Like I really honor that. And the type of sisterhood also that you practice, not only with your daughter, but also with other women, is something that I have been dreaming about for all my life, because this is how I grew up, in a sisterhood, being taken away from that sisterhood, so to speak, from my home into a space where...
Come here, just say hi to Ellen. I am. That's McKenna.
Hey, McKenna.
He is traveling around. Just tell her what you're doing. Tell the audience what you're doing.
I'm traveling. I'm a digital nomad for 2 years. And I'm currently in South Italy, and I've been across Europe the past 2 years. I've also been to the US, but that was earlier in my life when my kids were not in my life. So I absolutely love traveling, just like you guys.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah,
Love you.
I love you too, baby. Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Kazakhstan.
So for Americans, I really don't quite understand where that is.
That is very close to China.
Okay. Interesting. What was it, part of the Soviet Union at some point, or always its own country?
No, it was a part of the Soviet Union, and that's where I grew up, or the time I grew up. And when it crumbled, my parents, having German ancestors, decided, hey, let's go home. But they didn't realize that that home has changed a lot, and that we were not really welcomed, because we were considered Russians then, just like you see now, right? With the Russian war, everybody's...
I know, I'm 100% Ukrainian. I grew up believing that I was Russian. My grandparents were Odessa and Kiev, and I'm truly sad that I can't go visit because it doesn't exist anymore. It's a very strange thing that's going on in the world.
Yeah, it is. It is. And all the more important is the work that women do now. This is my feeling for 2 years now, that women will lead the way into the future, nobody else. And moms especially.
I agree.
Because we have the types of antennas that need to be switched on, so to speak, to really feel what type of future we will have and what kind of tools we will need to actually master that future and be prepared and equipped for that type of future.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why don't you think women work well together?
I am not really sure what happened in the West. That's not how I grew up. We were completely, as I said, in a type of sisterhood, which is not across all Kazakhstan or Russia. It was just very particular for the village that I'm from, which was particularly built for astrophysicists, because my dad is one.
Okay,
And
you
so,
don't hear that a lot.
Yeah, so all the families from astrophysicists were located in that little village of around, I don't know, 200 people, maybe max, to do the research, right? And to live with their families. So it was very close. And the type of friendship that my mom had with the women was unparalleled so far. I've traveled across the world. I've not seen such a type of friendship and sisterhood that I've seen over there. And
I would love you to unpack what that is. And I'd love to hear, that makes a great movie, by the way, A Village in Kazakhstan about astrophysicists where women were united. I'm like going, okay, tell me more, like give me some secrets and about, because in this particular country, my experience of this country is that men play sports as a team. I know my ex is still great friends with his teammates from college. I don't have anybody from college. I was by myself, but he has the whole football team and they play basketball, football, hockey, soccer. You know what women do? We do beauty pageants. You're prettier than I am. Your boobs are better. Your hair is nicer. And we're taught to judge each other on our physical, not on our skills. Wow, we're doing something wrong here.
That was a cultural shock for me as well when I came to Germany as a girl at 7 years, first time in my life where I saw competition between women. That was not something I grew up with. Wow. And from the history that I know about the Western countries is the seed was laid, so to speak, or was put into the soil when people tried to separate the man from the woman, right, with the feminism, right? That was, I believe, the movement that was used to separate the woman from the man. I'm a quite traditional person, even though I'm a single mom. I'm a very traditional person when it comes to that. And I believe that men and women do belong together, but only in a very specific way, and not in the way that the Western countries are teaching their kids how to be together and how to actually lead relationships.
Wow, interesting. I agree.
So going back to your childhood, this is one question that is very, very interesting for me. I heard you talk about your dad, that he was a magician and an inventor, which I find so exciting and so creative. What was one invention that he created, or one magic trick that you absolutely loved? Was your favorite?
Oh my gosh. You know, I didn't know everybody didn't grow up this way. My father, we grew up in a very small house. And one of the things that he did, he remodeled our little bathroom. We all shared one bathroom. And it butted up against the attic, a tiny little bathroom. And he opened up the mirrors in the bathroom and realized there was an entire attic back there. And he built, get this, a 4-foot deep, round, Lazy Susan, 3 feet high, and put it into that space. So you could turn it around, and there, like a pie, there was my toiletries. You turn it, there was my mother's toiletries. You turn it, there was my sister's. You turn it, and at some point it had an opening in the center, big enough for a human being to crawl over the sink, get into the medicine cabinet, and close the door. So while Harry Potter grew up under his staircase, Forbes Riley grew up in her medicine cabinet with a flashlight, my dog, and it was the only place where nobody could bother me because it was too small a house. And I spent a lot of time in my medicine cabinet. My dad also took a half a garbage can, a lawnmower engine, some paper mache, and made us a go-kart that looked like a Batmobile. I'm not kidding when he was talking about crazy. Here's one of my favorite tricks. I'll do this for you. I do lots of magic tricks. This is kind of fun, and I don't normally do this on a podcast, but it'll be fun.
Oh, go ahead. It's fun.
It will show your audience something you may not have realized. Okay, so I need a little piece of paper here. As you can tell, I'm not prepared to do this little trick, but I will do it. Okay.
And by the way, it will be also video, right? I will also distribute it on YouTube, so it will be visible.
Forbes Riley does a magic trick. So here's a piece of paper, nothing written on it, and a blue pen. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction here. Okay, make a little prediction, and I will put this one prediction, into my shirt. Okay, there you go. Now I have a pad. Now this is a little challenging to do here. I'm going to pick up some things on my desk. I have here a black pen, a blue bracelet, a blue cap to something I've been eating, a little rock that says the word pray on it, a fork. I have a fork from my lunch. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good enough to start, right? Okay. Would you kindly say the name of any 3 items?
Shall I say it or shall I just think?
Just say it.
The stone.
Okay. The stone. 3. Stone.
Oh, I should choose 3. Okay. I choose the fork and the pen.
Okay, so these 3, I will take those 3 away. And now you have a blue bracelet and a blue cap. Okay? Say the name of either one of them.
The bracelet.
Okay, the bracelet says what on it? It says, what would Forbes do, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, at the end of this trick, you could have had anything sitting up here, but you have the bracelet. I'm going to take this out. And let's see what I predicted before we even started this, that you would choose nothing on this side, right?
Uh-huh.
One thing on this side says blue bracelet.
Woohoo! You are amazing.
Thank you. The crowd goes well. And that is part of my heritage, doing magic tricks.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. And if you want to how I did that, email me. No, I teach that trick a lot because it just illuminates how people choose things, how you pitch. Here's another crazy magic trick, okay? Let me see if I can think about what Ella's going to say. Do you want to see something cool?
Mm-hmm.
You said yes. How did I know you would say yes? Because if you are doing your pitching correctly, which is what I teach, you know what someone's going to answer before you ask it. And that is a big secret to success in life.
Absolutely love that. I remember being in a magic show in France. It was like, I could not explain how the guy did this. He made it possible for a piano to float in the air. And like a piano is very heavy. Like, how do you do that? And I was in front of the stage. I did not see any strings attached to the piano or whatever. No, nothing. I was even backstage with it was the brother of the guy that I was like friends with, you know. So I knew him, and he didn't actually reveal anything about the trick, unfortunately. But it was really amazing to see that. So I've always been kind of in awe of people who can do magic tricks.
Well, you shouldn't be, because the people who do magic tricks are liars.
They are.
They're professional liars. And this is an important thing to know. Just because you couldn't figure it out doesn't mean it's not a trick. And one of the things that's very important when you're a magician, you don't listen to other people very well, because you know they're not always telling the truth, even though it looks like they are. You always want to look at politicians or people who have a different agenda and know they're not as sweet as you think they are. Maybe they are, but probably they're not. And same thing with a magic trick. There is an explanation. The problem is most people go, oh, it's just magic. And so they believe in all kinds of things that might not be true. And part of what I do for a living is I shatter your limiting beliefs. And I'm happy to show you how a lot of the things that you believe about yourself, about society, about life, might not be what you believe them to be.
That is very true. A lot of people believe blindly what other people are telling them, using a lot of tricks, you know. So I absolutely understand what you mean. And I think the time is ripe, so to speak, to crush certain beliefs about this world and what people believe about themselves. So it is time for this type of work that you are doing.
Yeah, and it's time to wake up and really understand what's real and not. I stood next to Chris Angel, who's a very famous magician I was working with in Las Vegas. And this older woman, very sweet, he did a mental trick, and she was like, oh my God, he could read minds. And I'm like, you're kidding. That's really, oh yes, he's extraordinary. No, he's a freaking liar. Okay, let's get real. That's not real. I'm like, I wanted to grab her and go, no, It's a trick. I don't care what you believe, I will show you. And the more that you begin to see this, the more you begin to realize how gullible you might be. And the problem is it's twofold. We as humans want to believe. We do. We want to believe so bad. We want to believe in the goodness of strange. But I'll tell you what, that's not usually true. There's a good and evil force in this world. And if you don't see it and acknowledge it, you're going to get swept away. And I just, and then every time somebody says, oh, I can't believe it. Do you believe that the person down the street was a serial killer? He had 4 dead bodies. Can you believe? Of course I can believe it. I'm shocked and I hate it, but it's real and it's happening around you. People are doing things. Can you believe that somebody dropped a missile on very peaceful people in the Ukraine? No, more than believe it. There's some evil going on here. And until we kind of wake up out of this, whoa, magic fairyland, we're not going to change. And so I just, oh, that person's so lucky they became a millionaire. No, he worked his butt off for it. None of this doesn't float out of the sky. And so I would like to be that disruptor and that eye opener going, look, let me wake you guys up. Let me show you something. I'm going to show you how the trick is done. And you're going to go, some tricks border on stupid. Some tricks border on stupid. I'm going to cut a woman in half, right? I'm going to cut one half here, one half here. She's never really cut in half, and you need to know that, because that wouldn't be possible. But it looked like it. I know what it looks like. It's not real. Interesting, right?
It is absolutely. And people need to be aware of it. Somebody needs to tell them.
Well, how about, let's start with this one. Everything that's printed in a newspaper on television is not true. Did you know that?
I did.
No, you might begin to notice it because you travel to different countries, and every country is the center of their universe, and their television and their news is completely different. In America, we think this is all there is. Wow. Listen to Al Jazeera, listen to radio and news in another country, and you're like, didn't know that, really? Interesting. And so I would love to just open up people's eyes, to shake them up, wake them up, because I want the world to be a beautiful place. I want people to love on children and support them, but not hurt them. I want us not to prey on innocent people. I want us to think that money is not the end of, it's not the end all. You don't win when you have more than someone else. And I think that we just have a really weird way of portraying that and teaching each other what's right and wrong and values. So I'm on a little bit of a crusade.
It is really diluting people from the real purpose of why we are here. This is my feeling. Especially women. This is like, it almost really crushes my heart that to see like young girls and women especially buy into the crap, that is presented to them on a daily basis on social media, on the TV.
Sorry? Hey, why did you say sorry with the word crap?
Because I normally don't, what's the word, cuss?
I don't really know what that means. All you said was a word.
Okay.
We as women say I'm sorry a lot.
No, I'm not.
No. But baby, I get it. Here's the thing. Tony Robbins walks out on stage and very unapologetically says, well, fucking A, I'm here. When I have said that word, people have gone, Forbes, you really shouldn't say that. Says who? Ella, if I call you a damned asparagus, you're an asparagus. You're gonna laugh at me, aren't you? Because that's not a bad word, but F-U-C-K it's a bad word. No, it's a word. And what you assign to it is a meaning. Congratulations. That's not my meaning of it. For me, I get very excited when I say it sometimes. Don't apologize for any word, because words have no meaning. Just gonna say that out loud.
But aren't they having a meaning though? Because there is, I don't know if you know him, but there is a water researcher who has done research on water, obviously, stating or kind of giving proof to the fact that words have certain energy. I personally believe that because physically it is very tangible, right? And even my father would agree to that. I had heated discussions with him about that, that everything that you say, like everything that comes from your voice is a created energy. It's a frequency, right? That's just facts.
Wait, hang on a second. When this guy did his research, was the frequency when somebody said the word or you just held it up written?
I think in his research it was written, but some experiments were also conducted saying the word in a closed up space to one certain element or material, like water, for example, like love, I love you. Like this has a meaning, it has a frequency, it has an energy that will have an effect on that water, or rice, for example. It was done with rice, I think, particularly. And on the other hand, if you say, I hate you, the word hate has another frequency that is conducted with the meaning. It is connected with the meaning that the person has.
So I wonder, I'm an actress, and the interpretation of, so if I said, I hate you, is that a bad frequency?
Yeah.
Interesting. See, I think it's the intention behind the word. And maybe words do. Things have all kind of things that I don't understand. But it's also those words exist in different languages. So I wonder, who knows? That's beyond my scope. You're an astrophysicist daughter. I'm an inventor daughter, and we're talking about stuff we don't even know about. Let's go back to us and your audience.
Let's do that.
Who is it that you speak to? Who is listening to this, do you think?
Mostly female coaches and female entrepreneurs who would like to build a personal brand for themselves.
Excellent. I just launched my newest course. It's called Next Level. I have some very passionate ideas about personal branding. I believe that most of us don't do it right, that you slap on a color or a font or a style. It's not usually organic. And I've done a lot of work on this about how you evolve into what you stand for and how you represent it to the world. So that is definitely part of my passion.
I think one of the reasons why people are, and absolutely agree with that, I hate it when graphic designers just go ahead and like you said, slap any kind of random color on whatever social media post, not even fitting to the person, is because people for the longest time did not understand the distinguishing, the difference between branding and personal branding. And there's it is a whole world between those two. And because they have been adopting branding strategies from the branding realm that was here for almost 100 years, like they have been just adjusting that to the personal branding area and space, which is completely wrong. Because if you're a personal brand, there are certain parameters that you need to look out for, or they are a foundation to which you apply those things.
I agree. And my training right now is 12 weeks long, working on your personal brand. But the cool thing is, and we're doing it right now, because the end of a personal brand, I think for us, is being on podcasts, is being able to communicate with the world, building an email list. Your audience is going to go, wow, I want to know more about her. We'll send her to my website. That's excellent. It serves your audience, it serves you, and it serves me. And I think that a lot of people who are starting out come on a podcast and think they're going to sell. No, I haven't talked about my product, even though I've got the coolest fitness product for digital nomads, just saying. But we're having a conversation. So if you haven't figured out your story, because your story is part of your brand, what you stand for is your brand, what you communicate is your brand. And I'm very passionate about this. So when you guys do a little research on me and go to www.forbesriley.com, there's a beautiful free gift for you there, because I love showering people with things they wouldn't have access to normally. And then also believe that your personal brand about you is what you stand for, is what you say, is what you portray, but it also is how you care about yourself, your fitness, your health, your mentality, your spirituality. That's all part of your brand.
It is really the 360 degrees of everything that you make up to be. Not only your past, not only your present, but also your future. Yes. And I feel like this is wildly misunderstood about personal brands. People are scared to show their past. They are filled with anxiety to show their present state at which they are right now. And they are in panic talking about the future, because they either don't have a vision or a mission, or they have one, but they are scared to talk about it because they think, oh, I'm a nobody. Who am I to talk about it, especially women? That's at least what my observation is in that space. And I think we need to change that. And I'm absolutely loving it that you are so passionate about personal branding, because it will bring the life to the women that we're trying to help, that they ultimately need, right?
If you're somebody who's scared about your past, confused about your present, and anxious about your future, go to ForbesRiley.com. And I will tell you, it's about my philosophy. I believe that you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. I believe when you harness your past, whatever it happened, congratulations. We've all gone through some serious shit, and I'm not apologizing for that word either. But if you can harness that and make your past work for you, I often say, because I'm a pitch specialist, that the worst part of your life is the best part of your pitch. Use it as fuel because that story that's yours, own it, enjoy it, make people cry with it. And I do that all the time. We're talking about our fathers, we're talking about my dad. There's a whole lot of things in there that unpacked that made me who I am. And your present, nobody's a nobody. Anybody's a nobody. Come on, get real. We're human beings. You are not what you've achieved. Congratulations, you wrote a book or built a building. Great for you. Who are you as a person? And you're not the sum of your achievements. You're the sum of your obstacles. And it's a very interesting philosophy. And then your future, well, if you don't have a vision, guess what? Nobody cares. My father died with a lot of ideas in his garage. And when he died, they all went to a garage sale. Nobody cared. So why not harness what you've got right now? My daughter said something so beautiful to me. She grew up watching, I had invented this fitness product, which I just love. It is called a SpinGym. Great for traveling, by the way. Amazing for your arms, for your abs, for everything that you do. It just provides so much. I've been doing this for 12 years. I love this, right? But I would do it in a restaurant. I love this thing so much that if you're near me, I say, give me your thumbs, and we do this. And I make sales everywhere. She was most amazed. We were in France. And I said, now this is funny. I said, take a picture, take a video of me. We were in a kind of a wine cave, and there were two women sitting over there. And I said, just take a video of me. And I started doing this. And all of a sudden, one of the women's like, in French, I don't know what she's saying. I was like, I don't speak. Next thing you know, we're like, I'm like, yeah. I got money. I sold a SpinGym. Never said a word that we understood, but she got it. And so my daughter said to me, Mom, I can't be embarrassed because of you. I said, what do you mean? She's like, nothing that I would ever do could be as embarrassing as watching my mother sell a SpinGym. So I'm good. How many young ladies could ever say that you cannot embarrass them? There's she has no fear of failure or success, because who cares? If you're going to be afraid of success, you won't get any. And if you're afraid of failure, you're missing out on the best part of life. You know how many times I failed? You know the kind of lessons I learned from that? So I would love to be a force of nature that redefines how you talk to yourself, about how you expect and how joyful this whole game of life is. It's sillier than you would ever imagine, and a lot more fun.
So talking about the future, where do you see your business in 10 years, being so passionate about personal branding? Will that be part of it?
How old are you?
Close to 40.
I'm turning 63 in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that I hope I'm alive and flourishing at 73? I don't know 10 years from now. I know right now is beautiful. I know that my daughter's going to carry this legacy on. I know that if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I didn't even know this seed existed. I didn't know Zoom was here. I didn't know I would be in love with the most amazing man ever. So I have a vision for the future. I don't wait for 10 years. I have a vision for this year. And if I accomplish all of that, whoa. And then next year I have a vision for that. And I let the visions become the future. And it's not, by the way, you'll hear people who build massive businesses based on that 10-year plan. I can't, really? I've lived 10 years 6 times. Who knew that I was going to be an actress and in movies and I plan a year at a time, enjoy that year to no end, and then look at that future and realize that once you're building, there is a longevity to it. But who am I to know where I'm going to be next year? So that's just me.
So you are a spontaneous soul then.
One of the most spontaneous you'll ever meet. I've created courses while I'm talking to people.
I love that.
Like it. But that's how I've always been. I see things for people. I have some magical powers for real. And I love doing that. For me, the future is, please, dear God, let me continue to do this, to be healthy, to want to do this, to continue to get out of bed. I'm just living life as it is. It's here. It's today. I don't know that there is a tomorrow. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's a very explosive, beautiful way to wake up in the morning. I do plan a few months out, plan vacations, plan trips, went to Greece last year with my daughter, but I also, why not be spontaneous? You may pay a little bit more in an airline ticket, but who knows? My daughter and I spent 4 weeks in Greece. We didn't have a single reservation. We got there, we knew we were leaving 4 months later. We had a vision of what we wanted to. With this and an iPad, we got great hotel rooms. It didn't matter. Let's go here, let's go there. And to live your life that way, it may not be for everyone. But I never worked for a corporation. I don't know 5-year plans. Please don't even ask me. I don't do that. Am I happy today? Yes. Would more money make me happier? No. The ability and the systems that generate more money would make me a little happier. Yeah. There's AI things there. There's books I want to write faster. There's things I want to do. But technically, I could retire right now. So how much money do you need? Money's a fun game. It's got a lot of value and a lot of things to it. And I've got some hang-ups from my parents. But what would you do if you stopped struggling? What would life look like? See, I think some people don't know. And I'm in a different generation. I cannot retire. What would I retire from? I don't have a job. Jack LaLanne, my all-time hero, couldn't retire. He was a fitness guy. At 96, he was still working out. His beautiful bride is 97. You know, I just hope, all I want is health. The rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, at some point you gotta enjoy the moment and kind of the present life. If you have been turning your wheels, so to speak, for years and years to achieve a certain level, and you mentioned that in the beginning where you said you wanted to be famous. So from that, I understand that you had the type of drive to get somewhere, to achieve something, right? And from what I understand, that you feel now is the time to really enjoy every second of it.
I have a beautiful husband. Joshua and I woke up the day. We'd come back from the West Coast and the time was different. And it was 11 o'clock and we were still in bed. And I rolled over to him and I said, baby, I said, successful people, they all talk about getting up at 5 a.m, getting into a cold bath, read for an hour, yoga for an hour, meditation for an hour, and then they start their day at 9. And he looked at me, he said, sweetheart, really successful people can get up at 11 a.m. and do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. And I'm enjoying it to no end. So I wish you a great 20 years to get to my age and see where you go. And should you plan at 40? Yeah. But at this point in my life, I'm enjoying it to no end. I'd like to meet my grandchildren. That's my 10-year plan.
Oh, that's something beautiful. Yeah.
And
really,
not before
really
that. My kids are 20. So let's not rush that.
I would love to know, what's your love language and why is love so important for you? And has it always been that important?
Wow. Do we have an hour and a half for this part? Okay. Love is the most important. I had a lot of love from my 2 parents, and that was powerful. I looked for love a lot. I was married to a beautiful man when we raised Dexter and he was murdered. That kind of ended, not us, but a lot of us, the joy of us. And that happens to couples. And for about 10 years, I was pretty single and I was a little frustrated, but I also wanted to focus on my children. My experience taught me that when you bring another person into that world, where do you spend Thanksgiving? His family, your family. And my head just couldn't do that. I wanted to be mom more than anything. And so when my kids were a little grown, I said, okay, it's time. And I made a list of what I wanted, what I would not tolerate, because you get what you tolerate. And I wanted a best friend who put up with all my insecurities and loved me anyway, who was supportive. And then I said I wanted someone who looked like he walked off the cover of a romance novel. Have you seen what Joshua looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing. And was beautiful. I mean, I'm in the fitness world, so I see beautiful naked men all the time, or half naked in fitness programs. And I said to my daughter, you never want to go out with a fitness bodybuilder. And she's like, why? I said, because they're only interested in three things: themselves, working out, and food. And then I met the exception to the rule, and he's spectacular and he's beautiful. And if you're watching this, go give him a like, because he tolerates a lot with me. His name is Joshua Self, SELF.ESI, because he was hacked out of his account. Anyway, when we met, I didn't think anything about it. He's a gorgeous man who's a lot younger than I am, whatever. And then he pursued me. And there's something very special about this young man. He lost his dad when he was 2 years old in a car crash.
Oh, wow.
He lost his stepdad when he was 15 years old in a car crash. Loyalty is the most important thing to him, and stability and friendship. And when he finally came out, we texted for about 3 months. We finally re-met again. And I said, what are you doing here? Because at that point I realized he's very handsome. He was a Chippendale and a fashion model, and he's physically gorgeous. And I'm 17 years older. And I thought, you found out that I've got money or I'm famous or something, and it's going to be a weekend of fun, right? You know, because that's what you think. He got down on one knee and he said, I'm not very religious, but something told me that you need me. And I'm like, that's a good line. And 6 years later, it's so the truth. This man is my rock, my stability, my joy, and the reason that I'm willing to sit in a seat for 40 to 60 hours a week teaching other people, because at the end of the day, I am loved. I am loved by a man who makes me feel special. And I cherish that to no end. He's talented and special, and we should all find a Joshua. Because if I had to write the movie, this would have been it. He is not only that, but he is already a dad, so we don't have to worry about kids, because I'm old, can't have kids, but he has kids. And he's just this precious human being who I want to spend all my time loving too. My love language is every one of them. Oh my gosh. Words of affirmation, touch, gifts, you name it. I'm very greedy. I want all the things about love.
Give it all to me.
It's so true. Unfortunately, his big one is time. And being in love with me makes that a little challenging. So words of affirmation really have to come in and touch. But yeah. And I love this concept. I also, and this is for all of you little youngins out there, you know that I am friends. Pick up the phone, friends, with every man that I ever had a long-term relationship with, except one. But dating back to my very first boyfriend at 21, he and I still call each other on our birthdays. He's married. It's not about that. My second one, a stunt man who I just cherish. I go on and on. I don't have that many, but over the years you have a couple. 3 of them came to my wedding. Now, why would that be? Because I didn't have a family growing up. And I have the sense that if you loved me or I loved you, just because I don't want to spend my life being your partner, doesn't mean I don't love you. And I will always love them. And some of them knew my parents. That's the closest thing I'll ever have to a brother, right? So I just cherish this concept that when people come into your life for a season or a reason, some of them should go. But my ex-husband and I have been together for 30 years. We're business partners and best friends.
Absolutely love that. Like how you focus on love, how you cherish that, how you love being with a person that you truly admire, and that gives you that type of space and safety and strength that you say you never had. It's like the most beautiful thing that can happen to a human being, to finally find something that was missing for so many years.
I'll tell you, I watched my ex's mother. She died alone. She divorced and never remarried. Joshua's mom has never remarried or dated. I don't want that. I watched Elaine and Jack LaLanne after 50 years of marriage still sing to each other. I want that. And I'm really grateful because I don't know how I did it. Like if I could just tell you, except one, make a list of all the things that you want so that when you see it, you'll recognize it. And then you do have to put yourself out there. But to be very, very clear with you, I didn't go to a bar. I didn't go on Tinder. I was in a hotel room in Las Vegas
Yeah.
shooting a little workout video with my SpinGym. And my videographer, God rest his soul, he just passed away. He said, "Do you want to meet a 2-time Mr. Olympian athlete?" I'm like, "No, not really." They don't really want a SpinGym. He said, no, I'll bring my friend over. In the middle of nowhere. And it was spectacular, but I wanted it. And I'm going to share with you that I think a lot of women, I'll talk about women, I don't know about men, but be very clear on what you want and what you'll tolerate. And I sat down and I thought about this for a long time. My daughter said, "Oh, Mom, you should marry somebody rich so that you never have to work again." And I thought, no, see, I've met rich men. And the problem with a rich man who's a little older is he would like to travel. If his kids are grown, he doesn't want a woman like me who enjoys working as hard as I do, who wants to be out there and a role model to other women. He wants a wife, a girl, and he should. He's not going to want, and I would, if I were him, I wouldn't want me. So then I thought, well, who does want me? Somebody who doesn't have a job. Somebody who's a freelancer, somebody who has got a skill they could do, that's important. Fitness, food, those things are very important. And I went down this list and it's a pretty impressive list of what I don't tolerate. I don't tolerate infidelity. I don't tolerate lying. A lot of things I didn't want. And then this man, as if by magic, knocked on my hotel room door.
Or maybe the person that introduced you to him knew you better than you thought.
Yeah, maybe. Kind of funny. Relationships, huh?
So to wrap this up, I have checked out the Women's Success Summit. Is that something that is coming up? I think it's 24th to 26th of March.
Oh yeah, it's on Friday. So if you're watching this live, and if a piece of this goes out live, I would love that. Here's what's happening on March 24, 25, and 26. For 12 hours a day, it's a 3-day marathon with myself and the amazing Sharon Lechter from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, with Vivica Fox, who is the television actress from Independence Day, with Christina Ray, who's starring on America's Got Talent, most beautiful singer, with Elena Cardone, whose husband Grant Cardone is crushing it around the world, Lisa Copeland. My daughter McKenna is teaching how to crush it with AI. We have got a jam-packed 3 days, which is recorded. So if you want the recording, reach out to me. And it's going to be spectacular. It's brought to you by the guys out in South Africa. So it's a very global, international experience. And it's live.
And so, it's free, isn't it?
100% free. You go to realsuccesswomen.com.
And of course, I will leave all the links to Forbes Riley, not only for the Women's Success Summit, but also Next Level and your general homepage and all your social links. My listeners will find in the description. You should definitely check Forbes Riley out. She's absolutely amazing and she's crushing it. And I had like the best time talking to you. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And you will see this recording very soon.
Well, I'm not going to let you end right there. I'm going to say, yes, you don't have to hope. You are a beautiful, inspired woman. I saw your daughter walking back behind you. I love, as a mom, that's my gift. I got to see what being a mom is all about. And I cherish all my women who are moms, my single moms especially, because it's hard work being you and being their mom and being all the things that you want to be. That probably is, when I don't like the word hard, but that probably is. There's only 24 hours in a day. But as a woman, do me a favor. Take care of yourself. Take the time to get a massage, to get your hair done, your nails, work out. They say on an airplane, put your mask on first. It's not a joke. If you are always giving to everyone else, there's no you left. I watched my mother do that. Don't do that. Be you. And you are very important. And you're more of a role model by how you live for your children than what you tell them. So if you want to be wonderful, decide to be wonderful. Decide to stop suffering. Decide to stop living what your mother and father or somebody bullied you said. Be who you are today. And as a Forbes Riley, I have a little steel card here. If you say those words, I hereby grant you permission to be wonderful, Your permission to not settle for anything that doesn't serve you. Your permission to just fly and enjoy this life, because we may only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you so much, Forbes Riley. It was my pleasure.
You are welcome, my girl. I will see you soon. I'll see you at the summit. I got to run. I got meetings to go to. Bye, everybody. And thank you so much, my girl. Mwah.
Bye-bye.